Welcome to the Art of Healing podcast, the podcast that is dedicated to helping you connect with your mind, body, and spirit. This is Charlize, physician and Reiki master, and thank you so much for joining me. I would like to remind you that although I'm a physician, the information you receive in this podcast is for educational and entertainment purposes only. You can find my full disclaimer at my website, www.healingartshealthandwellness.com. If you like what you hear on this podcast, sign up for my weekly newsletter. Check your show notes for more information and for the link to sign up. Thank you. Hello, Art of Healing podcast listeners. Thank you so much for joining me for today's episode. I am so fortunate that I was able to have a very special guest come back, and during this episode, we'll do a little bit of a demonstration. So recently, Kathy Harmon-Luber had been a guest on my show, and a few of the things she talked about resonated so much with all of us. I had so much positive feedback, so many questions on social media, so many questions in email about what she does, how does this work? And thank goodness she had time in her busy schedule to come back. So this is Kathy Harmon-Luber. So I'm going to introduce her. And then during today's episode, we're going to go deeper into sound healing. And being that this medium is podcasting, I'm so fortunate that Kathy's agreed that she's going to give us a little demonstration. So as we sink into this, I do want to remind you that whichever platform you're listening on typically allows you to download. So this one is, you might want to download to keep. But let me introduce you first to Kathy Harmon-Luber. She is a certified sound therapy and sound healing practitioner, a Reiki master, a classically trained flautist, an award-winning fine art photographer. She is an inspiring author and wellness guide whose passion is helping people navigate the challenging terrain of the healing journey. Last year, Kathy launched a best-selling book, Surviving to Thrive, Your Toolkit for Navigating Your Healing Journey, How to Live a More Healthy, Peaceful, and Joyful Life, which is full of wisdom gleaned from decades of healing from her own debilitating health crisis. I do recommend getting a copy of her book. I've been reading her book. It's got real-time, useful nuggets, gems, and it's organized in such a way that no matter where you are, you could start with this right away. So I'll put in the show notes how you can get a copy of Kathy's book. Kathy helps others find their compass and chart a course for navigating illness, injury, and loss, learning how not only to cope, but to become more resilient, joyful, and thriving. She's appeared in Authority Magazine, MindBodyGreen.com, Women's World Magazine, Yoga Magazine, where she's written a very wonderful article discussing what we'll be doing today, sound healing. And she's been a guest on numerous podcasts. You can connect with Kathy at www.sufferingtothriving.com, where you can download her free Infinite Possibilities visualizations. In your show notes, you'll find links to Kathy's website where you can get to her freebie. And after this episode, when you're ready to get scheduled with Kathy, you can go straight to her website. Kathy, thank you so much for joining us. How are you?
I'm great, Dr. Charlize. Thank you for the beautiful introduction. And I'm so thrilled to be back with you again to talk about my favorite topic, sound healing.
Nice. Very good. So I thought we would start with what is sound healing? If you'll just give us your definition of how you work with your clients in sound healing.
Yeah, if you don't mind, before, excuse me, we do that, I thought I would just say something that has been on my mind a lot about sound healing is, and I think your listeners will be really super interested to know, it is such a growing trend in health and wellness right now. People are using it for better health and stress reduction and improved energy and focus and overall well-being and just all the good stuff. And the most fascinating thing is it is becoming more and more scientifically proven as a healing modality, and it's being used in integrative therapy departments in a lot of hospitals across the country and in nursing homes. There's really a lot of good science behind this and medical science behind it. And so for just my definition of sound healing, it is truly just an immersive opportunity to be surrounded by healing frequencies. These healing frequencies that can really not only they sound beautiful, you can go to a yoga center or to a meditation center, hear a sound bath and it sounds beautiful, but increasingly one-on-one sound baths are being found to be very, very effective, where we use targeted frequencies to more or less, air quotes, speak to the cells in our bodies to help them begin to heal. So again, it's simply just immersing people in an energetic environment where our bodies respond to the healing frequencies. Yeah, and help bring us back into balance, if you will.
Specific frequencies. So, as you say that using specific targeted frequencies, and I know this one might be catching a little off the spot, but do you have an example on the top of your head? Because I have a response to that, but I'd like you to describe it a little more in terms of sound healing.
Yeah. Okay, so first let me say that when we do a sound bath, every sound practitioner is different. I happen to use the crystal bowls, the Tibetan bowls, Native American flutes, the gong, these beautiful little zephyr chimes, drums, the whole thing. And so every one of them has a different frequency that speaks to our body, and the language they speak is the chakras, basically. For those who aren't familiar, there are many chakras, but most people go by the rule of about 7 or 8 of them. There are many more than that, actually. But every chakra resonates at a different frequency. So in terms of the healing crystal bowls, which I'm going to demo a little bit today, I've chosen the ones for grounding and opening our hearts, and for the third eye for intuition. Every instrument is at a different frequency, and so that really helps us to define. If someone comes to me and says, I'm having this certain problem, and anything from energy blockages that cause creative block to migraine headaches to whatever it happens to be, we can look at the instruments and come up with a method of playing, if you will, that really helps to target on those areas and bring healing by removing blockages to our overall energy system, if you will.
And in medicine, we do that already.
Yes.
We sometimes don't acknowledge that we already use frequencies. We use light at different frequencies. One of our slower wavelengths of light we use are X-rays.
Yes.
And sometimes in medicine, we speed that up. We go all the way to what's used in MRIs. And we can go really fast with things like proton therapy, which is similar to what Kathy's talking about. We have a targeted frequency. What you're discussing, however, is, gentle and healing. And I mean, not that what we don't do is healing, but at that point, when we're using protons, it's being used for cancer.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Exactly.
So can you describe what happens in the mind and the body during a sound healing session?
Yeah, I love this question. Yeah. There are a lot of things that go on. Actually, 6 things that go on in the mind and body when we hear sound or music. I've studied with a sonic scientist by the name of John Stewart Reed, and I have a little quote here for you. He says, "Today, the latest sound healing research continues to uncover new ways that sound can heal disease, reduce stress, brighten your emotional state, making sound not only effective, but also enjoyable and fun. And research shows that carefully curated frequencies release tension, calm the mind, and promote a deep state of relaxation." And as you know, as a doctor, those things are really fundamental to begin to what each person can do to begin to heal. Okay, so the reason why sound works so well is these six reasons. The first is our bodies are anywhere between 60 to 75% water. Some people say it's as much as 85%. It probably varies by the body part and each individual person. But what is important is water is a superb conductor of sound, even more so than air. So fundamentally, our bodies are water. Our bodies resonate with the sound frequencies. Number two, it's not only what you hear, like some of the most healing instruments we can't even hear with our ears. The gong, which I'm going to play just a little bit later, has frequencies way above the human ear and below it. We can't hear it, but it is considered the most healing of all of the sound healing instruments. And that's because our cells respond, because our cells are water, right? And so they are being, the vibrations are being sensed at a very deep level within our bodies. And the other thing is, number three, when we strike a singing bowl or a gong or a drum or any other kind of stringed instrument, that stimulates the brain into what is called a theta state, a deep state of relaxation. And when we're deeply relaxed, it promotes healing. It reduces anxiety. It can lower heart rate. You know, many of these sonic scientists are studying with medical doctors to figure these things out. So they're monitoring these things and seeing that brain waves actually do go into theta state. So that's really important. And number four, other scientists are finding that 20 minutes of music or sound can regenerate old blood cells. I think that's a pretty amazing thing right there, right? They when they are reinvigorated, they absorb more oxygen. As we know, oxygen goes to our muscles, all of our tissues, our organs, and helps to promote healing. So at a very deep level, 20 minutes of music, it has to be music you love or sound, otherwise sound that you love, can really begin to make these big changes. Number five is my favorite, Dr. Charlize. It's kind of geeky science that I like, but there's a researcher at UCLA by the name of James Jimzewski, and he has been studying with doctors to publish an article that says every cell in your body sings. It has its own unique sound. And obviously we don't hear it through our ears, but their machinery picks it up, their machines. And when cells are dormant or sleeping, they stop making their sound. And that can lead to disease. You know, I don't know all of the medical science behind it, but when cells are dormant and not doing what cells do, that's usually not a good thing. And so, but what they have found that's even more fascinating than cells sing is that when we want to encourage them to not be dormant anymore, we use the frequency of that cell in order to stimulate it back to life. And they've seen this under laboratory microscopes and all. A certain sound for a certain cell will bring it back to life. And what these scientists are now saying is this portends amazing things for cancer research. You know, oncologists are getting very excited about this because if they are able to detect cancer cells by the way that they're not using their, air quotes again, voice, and they're able to bring them back into being, other cells back into fighting them, then people have a better chance at cancer. I think it really is a very exciting time in both sound healing, but also in medicine as they sort of join forces to help people heal. And I guess number six is, you know, I kind of alluded to this earlier, but we're energy beings, right? Like Einstein put it this way: we are slowed down sound and light waves, a walking bundle of frequencies tuned to the cosmos. So simply put, we operate on a low frequency or a high frequency, and sound helps us to come into a balanced frequency, basically. And we know this, you know, just anecdotally in our own lives. You know, if we're feeling really low energy or in a bad mood, you put on your favorite song and it really lifts you up, right? So we see that in our daily lives to some degree. And now the science is really proving that our bodies do indeed respond to sound and music in a way that is very healing.
That was so much information. Thank you. That's so amazing to hear. I'll tell you one comparison. You were mentioning the singing of the body. Anyone that's been to the doctor, had a heart problem, may have had something called an EKG. So that's a really good real life example of what you were saying as far as the cells sing. When we do an EKG, what's being measured is the cells inside the heart that produce an electrical signal on a rhythm, like a metronome. As a musician, you'll know.
Yeah, right.
Two major metronomes in the heart. And an EKG actually measures how those are working. It actually reads that. So not so much as a sing, EKGs and where we are, in history and in medical history right now is picking up the electrical signal. But that was what I thought of when you said when cells should have been singing on they go dormant.
Oh, I never even thought of it in terms of an EKG before, but of
Yeah,
course, that makes sense, right?
yeah, it's like an EKG.
Love it. Love it.
So, are there certain conditions that, in your experience, sound healing seems to really respond well to?
Yeah, I have my experience with my clients, and then I have what researchers say. In my own experience, anyone suffering from, just like, look, we coming through the pandemic, everyone has been stressed out. We've lost people. And so just the stress and the burnout of jobs, people who are burned out caring for family members. As you know, stress is not a great thing for our health, and it can really bring on issues, especially like in the autoimmune realm, which we talked about last time. And so anytime we can get stress levels to come down and help people find deep peace, that always is a healing thing. But I've also seen incredible results with people who've had migraine headaches or any kind of cluster headaches, that sort of thing. Autoimmune is another thing. I have found that in my own life, but I've also helped many, many people who have autoimmune who tend to get stressed out or triggered and flared up. And the sound really does help to bring that down to a place of balance where symptoms can get under control. It's the kind of thing that, it usually isn't just one thing, one sound session that is going to cure. Like, it's just like medicine, you can't take one pill and cure diabetes, right? Like, it doesn't happen. But sustained exposure to frequencies, whether that's going to a sound bath or doing sound on your own, has been found to have really good effects. I helped a woman who was about to undergo a very, very serious operation on her spine, very severe scoliosis. As an adult, she had to have a something built inside of her rib cage to hold her organs to prevent them from crushing. She and I had tremendous results with just getting her body to a point of being strong over months, but being strong and accepting the surgery. And she's doing so well today. Things like writer's block, which we don't think of as a medical thing, but people who go through creative block, sound is profoundly helpful. But I think overall, people find it just brings a very deep sense of peace. And if they're having issues, sometimes they get calmed down. And what I tell everyone is, work in concert with your medical team, because sound is something to add to it. It isn't something that is going to fix things. I think most of us, if you have something chronic, there's not one thing you can do. It's about putting together a whole protocol for yourself. Every person's body is different. And so everybody needs a bit of a different approach. So those are the ones that I have found. I even helped a woman not that long ago who had hurt her toe incredibly badly, jamming it, slight fractures. And she found that not only within the sound session did the pain go away, and this is a pain she'd had for like weeks and weeks, that it lasted. It was lasting through weeks until to help through the recovery. So there is really something about, if you sustained an injury of any kind, using sound healing to help your body cells recharge and align. But I'll tell you what researchers are finding. They find that both music and sound can reduce pain, lower blood pressure, and supercharge the immune system and decrease inflammation. And as we know, if you can decrease inflammation, sometimes the pain level goes down. The other thing is on the mind and wellness part of this is that sound has been found in these studies to elevate dopamine, which is the brain's happy drug, and it lowers the stress hormone cortisol. So even with only 20 to 30 minutes of listening to sound healing or music that you love, you can engage, the dopamine and reduce the cortisol and get, to a more balanced place of well-being. And that promotes our healing, right? So yeah. And I think just overall, like a lot of people say, even when people are not having like a really serious health thing, they find that it just helps them so much to live in the moment. Like sound helps us to be present and grounded in this moment. Like all of us are too busy. All of us are, zooming around, flying all over the place, juggling a million things. And if you can take a moment to just, be in the moment of listening to sound, you're living in this present moment. And being in the moment is sometimes hard for people whether they're going through something physically or mentally. And so that alone is deeply healing.
Thank you so much. That is
Yeah.
beautiful to hear. I love hearing how sound healing could be part of a prescription in a way, right? If
Right.
I'm going to prescribe Celebrex, if I'm going to prescribe,
Yeah.
acetaminophen, can I prescribe sound healing? Why not?
Mm-hmm.
So, for the listeners, this is, I think, the sweet spot now. Kathy has agreed to do a demonstration, a sound healing demonstration for us. So, Kathy, I'd like to go ahead and just hand you the airwaves. As we're getting into the sound healing, is there anything you'll need from me as you're getting set up, or do you need a few minutes or?
I don't, but thank you for asking. I think what I'd like to say just very, very briefly beforehand is a couple of really easy little tips for people if they are about to have a sound healing. Like this is just a very, very brief one, but if you're going to a sound healing, you know, the days leading up to a sound healing or the moments before a sound healing, I ask people to become more aware of just ambient sound around them. We get so closed off to sound when we're busy, when we're in the city, when we're listening to traffic or construction noise. Listen to birds, listen to the dog barking, listen to water running, whether it's a stream or whether it's your kitchen sink, the sound of chopping vegetables. Acclimate yourself to sound. Another thing they can do is to create an intention. So everyone who's listening today, I'd like to ask you to just take a second and state, to yourself, what is your intention for a sound healing? It can be very simple. It can be, I accept this beautiful sound healing. It could be, I intend to find deep peace in this moment. Or it can be something much, much more personal. And I ask people to hold that in their hearts and then just kind of let go of the worries that they have. And then just take a couple of deep breaths and relax and just, feel your shoulders and your belly and your legs deeply relax and kind of ground in to Mother Earth. If this were a longer sound bath, we'd go through a much bigger, more robust grounding and relaxation. But for now, just take a couple of deep breaths. And I'm going to do a couple of things. The crystal bowls I've chosen help us to ground. They help us to connect with our heart energy. And then they connect our third eye, which is our intuition. And so there was a very definite plan for the three bowls I chose. I usually use a lot more, but for today, it'll be three. And I'm going to start by singing a little
Before
song.
you get into it, Kathy, I just want to remind the listeners, if you're driving or if you're in motion, you can keep listening. However, wherever you're listening, why don't you download a copy so that you can experience this session much later? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to remind you all, but if you're driving, you might want to download this later and tune in when you have more of your attention. Kathy, I'm going to mute myself and I'm going to let you go ahead and take over.
Okay, but thank you so much for saying that, because that's obviously super important. Part of my intention for our demonstration today is deep peace and relaxation. And I'm going to start, sometimes I sing during a sound bath, so I'm going to start with that. And I'm singing onto the head of my drum. This is a song called Nene that I learned from mythologist and author Michael Meade. And it's a Yoruba song from Africa, which means Mother Earth hold us, for the world is hard. So no matter what you're going through, listeners, feel held by the energy of Mother Earth. And here we go. Nay, nay, eyuya. Nay, nay, eyuya. Eyayo. Eya Allah. Eyayo. Eya Shuru. Nay, nay, hey, you, yeah. And when you're ready, open your eyes, wiggle your fingers and toes, and come on back and hold on to that feeling of peace and relaxation to bring through the rest of your day.
Kathy, that was amazing. That was such a healing journey. It was a journey. I felt the grounding. I felt my heart chakra unblock. You and I had chatted a little bit before. Now we're getting to know each other.
Yeah.
But I felt this major block in my heart chakra just open right up.
Wow.
Yeah, I felt the energy flow back into my hands, because for me personally, whenever I'm feeling blocked, the energy in my hands, it stops right there, and I felt it start to just drum right back in.
Wow. Good.
So, see, for you listeners, again, if you are listening and you're on a podcast platform, every platform you listen to allows you to download that if you want to go back through that sound healing experience. So just have a look in your show notes. There'll be a way to download, especially if you were in a place where you couldn't quite absorb that whole experience. So, Kathy, for those that just got a taste of that and are feeling that they need more, that they're ready to work with you, what's the best way to get in touch with you to get scheduled for a full sound healing session?
Oh, thank you so much, Charlize. The best way is at my website, sufferingtothriving.com. There, they can look at the Work with Kathy page, and there's a contact form there. You can connect to my social media and private message me, or email me at sufferingtothriving@gmail.com. Thank you for that.
Thank you so much. So, listeners, again, Kathy's website is sufferingtothrive.com. If you will check your show notes, you'll have a direct link to take you there, so that if you got this session and you've got joint pain, soul pain, healing pain, anything, and you felt this was helpful and you need more, I would say get scheduled. You can also sign up for my weekly newsletter, because I always post a link to download this podcast directly, just straight to your inbox. And I also have Kathy's contact information there in my weekly newsletter. All you've got to do is check your show notes and it'll be there. Kathy, thank you so much for that beautiful, breathtaking session. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for the idea of doing it. I'm just so happy I could share a little bit of that with your listeners. And yeah, thanks so much, Dr. Charlize.
Thank you. Listeners, thank you so much for joining us. This was a special episode. If you're listening to this podcast, leave me a rating, give me a shout out on social media. This should be spread. If you love others who are going through suffering, share this podcast with them. They can be listening to this if they're waiting in the waiting room of a doctor's office, or they're waiting to start radiation treatment, or they're waiting for surgery, just anywhere. Free content you can just send to them right there. Start some healing, start some soothing. I say, let's share this. Kathy, thank you so much for joining me. Art of Healing podcast listeners, we'll be back soon for another episode. Don't forget to check your show notes so you can download this episode. You can find Kathy. All of that information will be there. Thanks so much, listeners. Bye-bye. Thank you so much for joining me for this episode of the Art of Healing podcast. Once again, this is Charlize. You can find out more about me at www.healingartshealthandwellness.com. Did you know I have a blog as well as online courses? Check your show notes to sign up for more information about healing arts, health, and wellness. Thank you. Please feel free to share this episode with your friends, family, and loved ones.